Ho
Today's video is fun with continuous loops. That's right, I've got loop after loop after loop. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I'm gonna show you a couple different things to use. I've seen videos of continuous loops that, that basically hang your hammock and hang your hammock suspension. But I have never seen a video with continuous loops doing other things with. And there's a lot of things that you can do with these little guys. Now, I've made all of these. You can buy them on DutchWare.com or maybe Hammock Gear might sell them, but you can buy continuous loops. I happen to have quite a few here. But the first thing you can do with them is a nice little game of ring toss. No. I'm not very good at the old ring toss game. All right. So, there's a lot of things that you can actually use these for while you're using your hammock. And I'm going to show you a couple of those things. And, and we'll go from there. All right, I've got my continuous loops here. And there's plenty of videos out there to show you how to make these. But basically what it is one loop that is completely continuous. These are made out of Lash It. I think it's yellow Lash It, or maybe it's yellow Zing It. Either way, it's Zing It or Lash It. 1.75 Zing It, and then I also have some of these made out of a smaller diameter as well, but I've got lots of different things you can use these for. So first thing I'm going to do is show you how I have my new Dream hammock set up. So this is my new Dream hammock, and it comes with a peak shelf. So the peak shelf is located here, and that's inside the bug nub. I'm going to see if I can get in here. Let me put these continuous loops down for a moment. So here's my peak shelf that's located inside the hammock, and basically what you do is you put some gear in there. You can put my camera equipment, socks, pillows, whatever. But as you can see here, it is located here, but as soon as you pull it out to where it gives you extra room, it snaps back and goes back into position. So what I'm going to do is show you a way you can actually use one of these little continuous loops to fix that. And I think this is called a Prusik. Now, I'm not really the master of knots, but so I'm going to try to see if I can hold this camera somehow where you guys can see what I'm doing. Maybe. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is take the little loop and stick it up underneath itself. And I'm going to do that a couple different times. Again, I think with this little loop I can get one more out of it. There it is, and I will pull this up. Now, you're usually supposed to lock this into place with something. I'm going to use a carabiner in this case. I think I happen to have one right here. Now what I can do, there it is now I can have this elastic here and slide this little guy to where I want it and kind of hold that peak shelf open a little bit more. And if you want to open it a little more, you just give it a little bit more tension here, and that holds your shelf open so that you can put more things into it. So if I didn't have that on there, the shelf would just slide back without me having this nice little, I think it's a Prusik knot, Prusik. Anyway, so that's one thing you can do with a continuous loop. You can actually use that same kind of strategy with your tarp. So you have your ridge line. And let's take this little loop off. Am I giving you? There we go. Pretty easy to get this little guy off. You just basically unravel it around itself. So I'm going to use a little bit bigger one for the tarp. So I'm going to go down here to my continuous loops. All right, so now I've got my tarp here. Now this is already set up. I've got it set up with a wasp, but we're just going to use this as an example. If I wanted to, I take this continuous loop and I wrap it one time, two times. You want to try to keep it in line with itself, so it's going inside itself over and over again. 3 times. And then kind of cinch it together there. There you have it. Now what I would do is I would take my carabiner or another continuous loop, however you want to do it, and attach it to my D-ring here. And I missed. The help, 2 hands was very helpful. I have 2 hands, what am I doing? Alright. So then you would simply take your carabiner and connect it to that little loop that's way over there that I can't reach because I have it too tight on the other side. But if it was attaching, you could slide your tarp to wherever you want it. So you can slide it up and down this line, and then as you can see, the more tension it has on it, the more it will not move. So it's actually stuck there. I'm putting a pretty good amount of pressure on it. It's not going anywhere. So that is another thing that you can do with your continuous loop. All right, now with this continuous loop, what I'm going to do is show you how to use on a D-ring, so that way you can tie it out. Now I didn't use it in this one. This is how I personally have this one set up. Now this is just a quick tie, but I'm going to show you a lot easier way and a better way that you can actually set this up by using a D-ring. Let's see if I can get this into this frame here. Come on, there you go. All right, so you're going to take your continuous loop and you're going to kind of crimp it here in the end and stick it through here. Then you just basically come inside itself and pull it tight. Now I also have a line lock here. It's actually another great way is you can do a lark's head on a line lock. You stick it through the back of here and then you come over itself and then cinch that down. So now you've got to attach to the tarp, you've got to attach to the line lock, and what you would do is take your cordage and you would run it through the back here. There's a little hole in the line lock, and then you run it through the front here, and now you can actually take this down to your stake. So if I had another stake here, you would take this down to your stake here and it would tie it out. You can adjust that length to anything you want. So if you wanted to come off the ground and take it to a tree, you could actually tie it to a tree, and then your line lock just slips. That's one of the great things about having a line lock, is that it just really adjusts very simply. I don't know if you can see that adjusting, but it does adjust. And then back the other way if need be. So that's how you use a continuous loop to tie down your tarp. Another great way to use a continuous loop is on your tarp ridge line. So you can see the yellow cord is my tarp ridge line. I have it hanging a little low now for this demonstration video. But what you will do is what's called a Prusik knot. It's similar to what we just showed you, or one that we will show you if we haven't showed you yet. But basically what you do is you take your continuous loop and you take your ridge line and you will wrap it around. So over the cord and back through again. You're going to pull that a little bit tight. You're going to go over through that little loop and back down again. And you're going to do this 3 to 5 times. Over and back down again. And then tighten it up. Once you tighten it, then you're actually able to take this little hook. Now this is the way I have it set up here currently, but we're going to do it a different way. So you take your little hook off and you can hook your hook onto this particular Prusik knot. So now this thing should be able to slide and hold tension. So it slides and holds tension. You can watch as the tarp here will move up as I slide this little knot down. So I'm sliding it down. Get you back in position here. Sliding it down and the tarp is pulling up. And now it is taut. You can see that the tarp line is taut all the way down to the other side. That is just another wonderful way to use a continuous loop. Now you can use that same style of knot for your underquilt. And what I would recommend here is, see, on my particular setup, I do have a whoopee hook, and I think that the hammock underquilt will fit on there. I actually haven't used it yet, so this will be the first time that I'll be using it, and I don't really know. So if, for some reason, it doesn't work, good thing I have about 5 or 6 continuous loops in my bag, because this is how I plan on hooking my underquilt if it doesn't hook into that whoopee hook. So I'll take this and just pretty much do the same exact thing that we've already done. Loop it, and now I have a Prusik knot. So my hammock underquilt will come under the hammock, the straps will come up here, and then I will either carabine it or hook it through with a toggle, or I have lots of different methods. But this now can slide up and down my line, and I can adjust the underquilt wherever I want. But if I put tension on it, it actually stays in place. Just another wonderful way to use a Prusik knot and a continuous loop. So I just tied this on here for my underquilt loop. Remember, it has tension on it. But one of the most important, and this is probably my #1 reason for having a continuous loop, or the most important thing you use it for, is the last trip that I went on, I made a crucial error. And that crucial error is, it was about 55-mile-an-hour winds, and the rain was swirling from every direction. So it was inside my tarp, blowing rainwater all over these lines, coming down the tree, and then as soon as it came down the tree, it actually came down my line and was dripping, dripping, dripping here. I had a break in the whoopee sling part, and it did actually break there, but it passed through. And what I made the mistake of was having my lines, my drip lines, outside of the tarp. You want to make sure that you have your drip lines under the tarp. So this could be a water break in itself. A continuous loop can make a water break. So I would slide that down to where it would be under the tarp, and now you have a water break. And you can tie a longer cord to that if you feel more comfortable, but this little continuous loop makes a wonderful water break. I actually have some that I made that I'm going to line in several different spots. See, this little hook makes a slight water break, but as it twists and turns, water can bypass. So I'll have another water break probably right around here, and then another one here, and then also down my line as I go. So I am actually now, since I just got soaking wet on a trip, I am a believer of having several water breaks. And I don't want my new dream hammer to get wet, because when it gets wet, it's not really that much fun. Now, some people use these Bishop bags as their water break. I'm actually probably going to bypass that as a water break and put them all along my lines here, one after the. We'll hopefully hook one as a last resort. Hopefully this one doesn't really get wet. This will be my longer one, so it does bypass the hammock altogether. And then a couple more on my ridge line for my tarp as well. I mean, you want to make sure that your tarp doesn't get it, because if you have your tarp the wrong way, it can actually drip down and then down your lines and into your hammock. So you want to make sure you have nice water breaks, and that's the #1 use of the continuous loop for my particular setup. I'm actually going to add those right now. So I know that this isn't considered a continuous loop because it has a little tail, but this is what I'm going to use for one of my water breaks. Super simple to set up. Super simple to set up. Basically, what I'm going to do is take it. I've got the loop there. I'm just going to run it through itself, one-handed apparently. So, there we go. Oh, almost have it. There we go. Run it through itself and pull that little knot through. Now I have a knot on the end of this one for 2 reasons. One, I have it for fraying reasons. So now I remember I said I wanted one on the line, so I'm going to pull it up here and tighten it out. So now that I have a tight little knot, I would like to flicker it up, and it's hard to do that one-handed, but now I have a tight little knot. So what happens is the water will drip down this line and catch here, and this will be its stopping point. So once it stops here, then it'll drip down the line instead of continuing to drip to here. Now, I have seen it bypass that, so this works as another break, but not a great one. So I would actually add another one of these, which I have here, to this section of the line. And it would go on there as well. I'm not going to tie it on now one-handed because you've already seen me do that. But this is going to be my last resort drip, and I'll probably actually have one a little longer so that it doesn't drip onto the hammock if the wind's blowing, and I'd probably keep it right around here. So you can see I'm going to add these 2 here, and I'll probably put a shorter one made with a continuous loop that we've already shown you here. So water breaks are really important to keep you dry and safe. If the weather gets down to 50, even 50 or even 60 degrees sometimes, and you're soaking wet, that could be cause for hypothermia. So here I am inside my hammock, and I wanted to show you another great resource for continuous loops. So what I have here is a series of continuous loops, and I'll just show you how I do this. This is 3 continuous loops that I am going to make into one of the most amazing things you've ever seen. So here we go. And I'm actually inside my hammock, and I have 1 smaller loop and then 2 of a similar size loop here. So this is 3 total loops. What I'm going to do is take the small loop, this will be my middle, and I'm going to put it around and then through itself. So I got a little ant in here. I'll go ahead and throw him out. He tried to eat his way out of my hand. Anyway, so we've got a smaller loop into a bigger loop, almost like a little snowman. Then I'm going to take my third continuous loop and do the same thing. I'm going to feed it through the little gray one and then back through itself to make 3 loops here. And then I'm going to kind of make them a little bit tight. Then what I'm going to do is take my cell phone and hook it over one corner on the back. The long part will go on the back. And then I'm going to put it up on my ridgeline. Let's see if I can share this to you here. I think I can do this. Let me move this out of the way here. So I'm going to take the cord and put it over the ridgeline and then hook it onto the other corner of my phone. There we go. Now my phone is on my ridgeline. So if I was watching TV or watching a movie, I could actually have it on my phone right there, hands-free, baby, hands-free. And it actually holds up there pretty well. I'm wiggling around in the hammock here. You can see it holds up there pretty daggone well. So that's another way to use continuous loops. Fun with continuous loops, they say. What else can you do with continuous loops, you ask? Well, there are so many things. You could ask your fiance to marry you with a continuous loop. She might have some chubby fingers for this size. Don't tell her I said that. Also, as I did show you how I kept my peak shelf to stay back. I can slide it and angle it wherever I want by using this continuous loop. So inside the hammock there are ways you can use the continuous loops as well. How about down here where the zippers, if you wanted to put a little lock on there, you can actually lock these together. Now I personally don't want to do that, but you could use a continuous loop these are actually little continuous loops in themselves, and you can put them through each other and lock your zippers in case you didn't want any strange camper people to come inside your little tenty hammock area. You can use that as a nice little lock system. Claustrophobia! So anyway, that is just a few things you can do with continuous loops. You can make a gold chain out of it. Yep, that's right. If you had enough loops, you could make yourself a gold chain. Also, you could, so here, let me just go over the list of things that I have. You can use a Prusik knot on your ridgeline. You can use a continuous knot for your hammock suspension, as most do. You can use it for tarp tie-outs, as I've showed you. You can actually run 2 lines and use it as a clothesline or a drying rack if you use 2 lines between a tree, and you can put several little loops on and hang your gear off of it to dry things out. That's actually a great idea. I should have shown that one. If you're eating a meal and you're a little chubby, you can unbutton your pants, and then you can use one of these little continuous loops through the hole in your pants, and then you just hook it over the button so that, you know, you're a little chubby. No one will know that your pants are unbuttoned. You can use them as a water break. You can use them as quilt tie-outs, and then you can hang your phone from your ridgeline. That's it, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow this channel. So if you like anything that I've told you, or if you thought Fun with Continuous Loops was a good video, please like and subscribe, and I'll be back to you with a new video soon. Thanks, guys. Ho ho!